What's the price of rice in Hawaiian? When I go back to my boss house, I'll have $2 per dough of rice. On the sandboat in the Grand Canal, Zhu Chaoxian stared at the wilderness in the distance, and he was lost in thought for a long time. Then, he held the pipe in his mouth for a moment, and his eyes flashed. It's increased a lot compared to last year, right? The Chung Sui, who was serving him, nodded in agreement. His eyebrows knitted together, and he said worriedly, "If this continues, if the Imperial War in the Southwest continues for a few more years, our lives will probably not be easy. There's nothing hard to do. It's just a matter of having more money. Didn't Ming Jing win the Imperial examination last autumn? I spent all my money on it and sent him all the way to Beijing. Even if he can't compare with those princes and nobles, he can still be decentralized and become a county magistrate after a few years. What my boss said is that the second young master is extremely talented. Now that he joins the Jingdong family, he can sit back and relax." Hearing the echoes of Chung Sui and the slow sound of ships passing through the water, Zhu Chao waved his hand to let him back off, leaning on the ship alone, closing his eyes and recalling the past. For years ago, he traveled to this ghost place, the prosperous age of Kangxi and Qianlong in the old age of Shirkuan, and Xizhou, Anhui, the pinnacle of the Qin dynasty. The funny thing is that Zhu Chaoxian's life was pretty good, and the status of the family he traveled through is not low. Gaozu once participated in quelling the San Francisco Rebellion and unifying Taiwan, and he did not make many achievements. However, with his smooth interpersonal relationships and his sincerity of filial piety, he also became a 5th-grade Hang co-organizer and garrison in his hometown of Xizhou. Even though an official of the 5th rank is not junior, in fact a military officer is inferior to others, not to mention that this official is not hereditary. In the second generation, there is still a minor official who can hold the title of general. By the third generation, that is, Zhu Chaoxian's grandfather, it has reached the point where he only holds the fictitious title of foreign commissioner and receives a few taels of silver every month. Fortunately, Zhu Chaoxian's father had some tricks. In the 11th year of Qianlong's reign, he found a connection with Zhang Guangxi, the governor of Sichuan and Shaanxi, and participated in quelling the Jinchuan and Jinchuan rebellions. Later, when he returned to his hometown, he worked hard again and entered the field of selling salt in Xizhou. After 10 or 20 years of hard work, the Zhu family is now in Xizhou. Now that Zhu's father has passed away, Zhu Chaoxian has naturally shouldered the burden of the Zhu family. Fortunately, this old man was quite smart and did not let them continue on the path of practicing martial arts and joining the army. Error 500, server error. 1500, that's an error. There was an error. Please try again later. That's all we know. This doesn't even count the possibility of a bastard and a loser in the family. Therefore, the two brothers Zhu Chaoxian and Zhu Chao have been busy studying since they were young. The Zhu family invited the two brothers to have a well-known gentleman in the entire Jianbei area to educate them. Perhaps the ancestors had been warriors for several generations and finally accumulated some literary skills. When it was passed down to Zhu Chaoxian's generation, the ancestral graves were filled with smoke. In the 28th year of Qianlong's reign, the two brothers both won the title of scholar. At that time, Zhu Chaoxian was 18 years old, and Zhu Chao was 15 years old. This is an improvement for the Zhu family, which has been practicing martial arts for generations, and an improvement in the quality of the family. Even if the two brothers fail to win the imperial examination, with their status as scholars and the Zhu family's original family business, if they manage well, the probability of another scholar in the next generation will be greatly increased. In this way, as long as no major accidents occur, the Zhu family will become a well-known scholarly family in Xizhou in 2 or 3 generations. However, things developed beyond everyone's imagination. In the 32nd year of Qianlong's reign, for years after Zhu Chao won the title of scholar, he went to Jiangning Mansion to take the provincial examination. Note 1. A success in one day. The gap between a scholar and a scholar is not even a tiny bit. 20 years after Qianlong, The number of scholars in Anhui basically remained at around 1 to 2,000. And among these talented people, only a few dozen candidates are awarded every year, and sometimes there are only 10 or 20 people. It is conceivable that Zhu Chaowei won the imperial examination in Jiangning, which greatly improved the status of the entire Zhu family. Since then, the Zhu family has skyrocketed in Xizhou. Even when Zhu Chao first went to the county government office on weekdays, the county magistrate always spoke kindly to him for fear of offending him. As for Zhu Chaoxian, he was not so lucky. His literary talent was not as good as Zhu Chaoyue's, and because he was the eldest son, he had been trained by Zhu's father as the head of the family. However, Zhu Chaoxian didn't have the intention to slowly get through his qualifications. In the past few years, the most important thing he did was to send people around to inquire about news from various places. Among them, the Yunyang mountain area at the junction of Sichuan, Shaanxi, Hubei, and Henan is the main one. Because he remembered that when the Qing dynasty was at its peak, an uprising broke out here that shook half of China and caused the Qing dynasty to turn from prosperity to decline. The White Lotus sect uprising in Sichuan and Chu. It is a pity that after several years, the people sent by Zhu Chaoxian did not find the White Lotus sect's residence or even the shadow of the White Lotus sect. In this regard, Zhu Chaoxian could only express regret. He did not know the specific year of the White Lotus sect's uprising. According to the available information, it seemed that a major uprising was still brewing. Since there was no hope for foreign aid, Zhu Chaoxian focused on himself. The salt-selling business inherited from my father has not stopped. Although the Lianghuai salt merchants were severely damaged by Qianmeng's several trips to the south of the Yangtze River, small and medium-sized salt merchants like the Zhu family, who were not considered giant salt merchants, still made some money. It was just more or less. However, just selling salt is not a very profitable business, nor is it very safe. Not to mention anything else. Every time the governor of Liangjiang took office, he would give a sum to the salt merchants of Lianghuai and spread it down layer by layer. Even at the level of the Zhu family, each governor had to hand over 1,000 taels of silver. In addition, the governor of Jiangsu, the Lianghuai salt transport envoy, the Lianghuai salt administration, and the water transport governor all had to take care of things. This is the big head. As for the small heads below, such as the guerrillas on the business road, the boss, and the heads of various mountain and water villages, who can make you live comfortably without giving money. The Zhu family spends more than 60% of their gross profit every year on taking care of all kinds of devils. The rest is the Zhu family's own income. Therefore, when Zhu Chaoxian traveled through time, the Zhu family, which was well known in Xizhou, actually did not have a rich family background, and could even be said to be extremely thin. In order to live comfortably in this feudal society, Zhu Chaoxian struggled for a long time before relying on his own memory to find a coal mine in Fengyang. It was an abandoned small coal mine that he often went to when he was a child. It was discovered in the 1980s, but it was dug out within a few years of mining and has been abandoned ever since. It accompanied Zhu Chaoxian for half of his childhood. The coal mine is not big, but because it is a shallow coal mine, it is not difficult to mine. Moreover, it is on the bank of the Huaihe River. Once it is dug out, it can be directly shipped to the Yangtze River and directly connected to the canal network extending in all directions. Zhu Chaoxian made a lot of profits by exploiting such a shallow coal mine. Otherwise, even if Zhu Chaoyue was a Wenxiu star and came to Earth without money, he would never have been able to pass the imperial examination. It was also through this coal mine that Zhu Chaoxian went deep into the black and white roads of Lianghuai River. The bandits and water thieves in the entire Huaihe River, Hengze Lake, and the waters near Gaiyu Lake have all received his favor, but at least no one does not know the name of Xizhou Zhu Chaoxian. In the official circles of Anhui and Jiangsu, Zhu Chaoxian was the representative of the Xizhou squire, and the white gloves of the giant salt merchants of Huaihe and Huaihe frequently entered and exited various government offices. After several years of operation, it has begun to bear fruit today. Note 1. The 32nd year of Qianmeng was not the year of the rural examination. I have not found any information on the Anka program in the Qing dynasty that year, so I will temporarily assume that Anka was opened in Qianlong. If any readers find relevant information, you can post it in the comment area. I will make corrections after seeing it. Chapter 2, Going to Yangzhou. Jiangsu Yangzhou. In the 33rd year of Qianlong's reign, Yangzhou still maintained its prosperity, as if nothing had been left on this land during these thousands of years. As the leading city in the south of the Yangtze River, Yangzhou is not only the core node of the southern line of the Grand Canal, but also an important town in the north of the Yangtze River. The old man said that after Yangzhou, it is no longer a water town in the south of the Yangtze River. People further north are all gangsters. Yangzhou, Xiaobo town, from the waters of Hengze, Beima, Gaoyu, and Xiaobo, which are distributed north to south and connected by the intricate waterways between the Yangtze and Huaihe rivers, Xiaobo town is the first to bear the brunt. Therefore, although it is only a small town, due to its dangerous geographical location, its prosperity is even greater than that of small towns on the northwest border. At the pier next to the canal, an endless stream of ships going south and north docked from time to time, and more of them changed into flat-bottomed boats and headed south. This section of the canal from Xiaobo Lake to the Yangtze River is narrow. If it is a cruise ship or the like, it can pass directly. However, on the Grand Canal, ships transporting goods are the mainstream. In order to carry more cargo, these ships from the north are often unable to pass through this waterway and can only transfer to small boats and continue southward. The governor of water transport collects so much money every year, but he does not widen the canal. Instead, he monopolizes the small boat business. Guarding the Xiaobo town, he makes an unknown amount of income every year. Sitting on the platform outside the painting boat, Zhu Chaoxian drank tea silently, looking at the passing ships and muttering to himself. He considers himself a person with no conscience. When he encounters beggars begging on the street, he will subconsciously stay away and feel a sense of disgust in his heart for no reason. Zhu Chaoxian had never had a good impression of animals. Even when there was a major earthquake in a certain place and many people around him enthusiastically donated money, he remained indifferent. But just like this, for years after arriving in the Qing dynasty, I was afraid of this highly centralized and extremely feudal dynasty from the inside out. Terrible, this is the word that has been lingering around Zhu Chaoxian for the past 4 years. I often think of Hu Shuoyan, a red-top businessman who became the strongest businessman in the Qing dynasty, but still ended up bankrupt and having his property confiscated. Zhu Chaoxian shuddered. You know, Hu Shuoyan was defeated so miserably with Suozong Tong's support. He, Zhu Chaoxian, was just a country squire from Xizhou, and his ancestors were also military generals. Zhu Chaoxian's efforts to send Zhu Chaoyue to the Juren position was already the limit for Zhu Chaoxian. He hoped that Zhu Chaoyue's Juren status would be a stepping stone for him and the Zhu family to climb to the pinnacle of power. After all, Zhu Chaoxian's situation after time travel was not too bad. Compared with many time travelers, it was even considered very good. Being in a huge and irresistible feudal dynasty, Zhu Chaoxian did not have the courage to take the initiative to raise a rebellion and flee to the end of the world. Unless he was cornered, he would not raise that flag. After all, starting a rebellion sounds exciting, but in fact if you really do it, the difficulties will be as overwhelming as an infinite mountain. Throughout the ages, countless people have raised armies in troubled times. How many will emerge victorious in the end? What's more, what Zhu Chaoxian is now living in is the prosperous age of Kangxi and Qianlong in the Qing dynasty. It is a time when the country is peaceful and the people are safe. It is not easy to raise troops in troubled times. How is raising troops in the prosperous age any different from seeking death? The Qing-Burma War has not yet ended, and there will be another rebellion in Jinchuan and Jinchuan in the next few years. As for the further future, the White Lotus sect uprising will also be a great achievement. If he can take advantage of these opportunities, Zhu Chaoxian is confident that he can climb to a position that is enough to protect himself. Now that the ascending channel is here, Being honest and obedient is a choice that any sober-minded time traveler would make. 3 hands going south and north. Where is the top of the mountain? Hey Gulu by the river, the little Ming king of Suzhou. Please come in. In a simply decorated inn in Yangzhou City, Zhu Chaoxian followed the waiter and turned left and right into the backyard. Why is Prince Xiaoming here? It's not time for delivery yet, right? In the room, a lean middle-aged man with a goatee said in a low voice. Zhu Chaoxian didn't say much and raised his index finger. My brother has been elected. I will go to Nanjing to run for him. Oh. When the man heard the word Jiren, his pupils suddenly shrank, and then his face became much kinder, and he smiled attentively and said, The 2 brothers, King Ming, are really good men. One has such tricks at a young age, and the other won the title of Jiren when he was only 20. His future is limitless. May I ask what you are here to ask for? Wind or noise? Zhu Chaoxian pursed his lips. He had many good friends within the salt merchant, so there was no need for rumors. Here are some Western goods. The ones I got last time were not Western goods. His tone was very calm, but as soon as he finished speaking, the man opposite him looked embarrassed and then apologized with a smile. It seems that the new brother didn't understand the rules and got it by mistake for Prince Ming. This time, Prince Ming will definitely be satisfied. Zhu Chaoxian did not pursue the matter further. This group of Fujian Tiandihui, said to be Tiandihui, was actually no different from a group of bandits. If he did not have connections with Guangzhou, he would never deal with such people. I'm leaving first. I'll deliver it tonight without further ado. After that, with a flick of his hand, Zhu Chao turned around and left. After Zhu Chao left first, a waiter who was hiding behind the door came out and walked to Goatee's side. He looked out the door with doubts in his eyes. Shopkeeper, why is this man so arrogant? He actually said in front of you that the guns we made were inappropriate. Unexpectedly, as soon as he finished speaking, he was slapped by the man on the head. What do you know? Even though this guy has a hairless mouth, his hands are very hot. If someone like you falls into his hands, he will definitely make you howl for 3 to 5 days. Yes, is it that powerful? Goatee's expression was solemn and his brows were furrowed. Otherwise, how do you think he, a boy in his early 20s, has gotten up in the past few years? On the entire Huaihe River, there is no hilltop water village that doesn't know King Xiaoming of Suzhou. This guy has at least hundreds of heroic guns in his hands. Hiss! Stop talking nonsense and get to work. Mr. Shui, the price of raw silk from Jiangnan is still the same? Yes, a load of raw silk costs at least 20 taels of silver. It's still so expensive. You can't buy raw silk now. If you buy less at this price, you won't make money. If you buy too much, you'll be hurt if you lose money. Yes, but the price of Central Plains porcelain has increased a lot recently. How about buying a batch of porcelain from Jiangnan? Zhu Chaoxian waved his hand and pressed his temples. The environment he was in was extremely simple. The guest room only had a bed with a mosquito net, 2 benches, a wash basin, and a urine bucket, and nothing else. If the bandits on both sides of the Huaihe River knew that Prince Xiaoming of Suzhou was such a thrifty person, they would probably be shocked. It will definitely cost a lot to go to Jiangning and Suzhou. The increase in price of Zhongyuan porcelain is not worth it. It's better to save this money for Mingjing to spend some money on. The money spent after winning the election will be no less than before. Chapter 3. Yubashi. Jiangsu Yangzhou. The Lianghuai Salt Patrol Yuan Office is also the residence of the Lianghuai Salt Patrol Yusher, commonly known as the Lianghuai Salt Administration, and is referred to as the Salt Yuan. This is the top person in charge of coordinating the salt price of the entire Lianghuai River, supervising tax collection, and inspecting subordinate officials. Although it is said that there is no definite title, the power is very great, and it is often held by the governor and the governor. The newly arrived Lianghuai Salt Administration background is not small. Yubashi, a native of the 8 Banners of Manchuria, took over the salt administration of the former Lianghuai and Huaihe rivers in the 33rd year of Qianlong's reign. Gao Heng, the current minister of the Ministry of Personnel, was the new salt administration of the two Huaihe rivers. After the Spring Festival this year, I hurriedly set off south from the capital. It is early April and late spring, and it has only been a few days since I settled in Yangzhou, Yenyuan Yamen. As usual, when a new salt official takes office, the well-known salt merchants from both Huaihe and Huaihe rivers come to congratulate him and send him the tributes he has prepared. This time is no exception. Originally, after such an incident, even the strictest officials would be in a good mood, causing the entire Yenyuan Yamen to relax for a while. If there are servants who are clever, they can say a few good words and get some rewards. But at this moment, the Yenyuan Yamen was in a state of turmoil. The servants and officials in the courtyard were all cautious, fearing that any one of them would be scolded or even criticized. What a slave! These salt merchants and mere merchants dare to make fun of me. 10,000 taels of silver to send to a beggar. That guy Gao Heng, in the 11 years of salt administration, has been full of fat and greedy. He is greedy for at least 1,000,000 taels of silver. Now, when I take office, I only get a small amount of 10,000 taels of silver. Is this a sign of authority for me? In the backyard of the salt courtyard lobby, in a quiet courtyard with the unique style of a Jiangnan water town, the new Lianghuai salt administrator Yubashi is sitting on the Taisher chair with a sinister look on his face and an extremely indignant expression. However, his background is not as good as that of Gao Heng, the former Yanzheng. After all, his father is Gao Bin, a bachelor, and his sister is Gao Guifei, the favorite of Emperor Qianlong, although Gao Guifei has passed away now. Moreover, Gao Heng also had a cousin, Gao Jin, who sat in the high position of governor of Liangjiang. The Gao family is a noble family, so naturally there are more people to fawn over, but don't forget that Gao Heng used to be a soldier of the Han army, and when he met Yubashir, he had to kneel down and call him a slave. Note 1. And the Gao family was carried from the Han army to the yellow flag, which was only the 13th year of Yongzheng, 33 years ago. No wonder Yubashi was so angry. In the eyes of these salt merchants, he, a Manchu descendant who came out of the White Mountains and Black Waters, was no better than a Han army slave. In fact, there is no one like Gao Hengqiang, who is outstanding in the capital. He can succeed Gao Heng in the position of salt administration of Lianghuai. In addition to his high and low management and spending huge sums of money to hire people to speak, the main reason is that Gao Heng has stayed in the position of salt administration of Lianghuai for too long. In order to prevent local officials from getting bigger, and because the two brothers Gao Heng and Gao Jin were so close to each other, one was in Jiangning and the other in Yangzhou, and they both held great power, so as to avoid being criticized, Qianlong asked Gao Heng to return to Beijing and serve as the Minister of Civil Affairs. However, Yubashi was not a jobber. After so many years in the officialdom, he had long heard that Gao Heng accepted bribes on a large scale when he was in charge of the Lianghuai salt administration in Yangzhou. I originally thought that if these salt merchants gave me enough money, I could deceive them and fool them into this matter. But now, with so little money, he can no longer play. Sir, maybe the Lianghuai salt merchants were ripped off too hard by Gao Heng, and they don't have that much money at the moment. There will still be some time for the accounts of the Ministry of Accounts to be audited. Why don't we wait? Yubashir's master suggested that, yes, Yubashir, could get such a good job, not all because of the work of the top and bottom management, but also because this year it was time for the Ministry of Household Accounts to audit the accounts. In fact, the Ministry of Accounts audits the accounts every year, but in previous years, Gao Heng was able to barely cover the losses of his predecessors by raiding salt merchants in Lianghuai, and he also made a fortune by the way. But after years of this, even though the Lianghuai salt merchants were the richest in the world, they could not withstand Gao Heng's exploitation. What's more, Qianlong went to the south of the Yangtze River several times, and a large part of the huge amount of money spent was paid by the Lianghuai salt merchants. In the 33rd year of Qianlong's reign, the Lianghuai salt merchants finally could not bear the pressure. When Gao Hum left office, he promised them that he would take care of the salt merchants and support them after arriving in Beijing. That's why these salt merchants dared to look down upon Yu Bashir, the newcomer to the Lianghuai Salt Administration. After all, if you want to get money safely without causing any trouble, you have to eat this stupid loss. Wait. Yu Bashi gritted his teeth and struggled in his heart. Time waits for no one. A lot of the money for filial piety and gifts was borrowed from banks in the capital. If he couldn't pay it back in a short time, it would be a waste of money. Even if he holds a high official position in Lianghuai Salt Administration, it does not mean that he can be ignored. Which bank can be opened in the capital without the background of an 8 banners prince? Owing money is a trivial matter, but offending these masters is seeking death. But Yubashi didn't want to offend the prince of the 8 banners, nor did he want to owe money. He thought about it. So, he could only force the Lianghuai salt merchants. Unexpectedly, these salt merchants were so ignorant and gave him a headache. Give them another month. If they can't get the money back by then, I won't let them go leniently no matter what. Even if I give up my official skin, I can't take the blame. After pondering for a long time, Yubashi said fiercely. The master sitting on his right also looked stern when he heard this and nodded silently. He knew very well what Yubashi was talking about. It was a well-known unspoken rule in the official circles of the Qing dynasty that bribery and corruption were common in successive Lianghuai salt administration officials. Even Emperor Qianlong knew a little bit about it, but every time he went to the south of the Yangtze River, he spent tens or even millions of taels of silver. The Lianghuai salt merchants paid a lot of this money. Pu Fu and Gao Heng did the Lianghuai salt administration work to Qianlong's satisfaction, so he didn't care. But in the eyes of outsiders, this was a fat job. When Yu Bashir actually arrived and checked the Yunyuan's account books, it was a blow to the head that made his spine shiver and his jaws chatter. Who would have thought that Yunyuan's deficit would reach tens of millions of taels of silver? Even excluding the unexpected project expenses of more than 4 million taels prepared for Emperor Qianlong's previous expeditions to the south of the Yangtze River, the remaining 6.8 million taels were nowhere to be found in the account books. Weird, really weird. Yubashi thought with his toes, and he knew that this was the deficit saved by Ji Qing, Pu Fu, and Gao Heng when they were appointed as the Lianghuai Salt Administration in the past 23 years. It was like a time bomb. It had not exploded for 23 years, but instead it was getting bigger and bigger. Now it fell into his hands, and it was already too big to hold, so he had no choice but to let it fall to the ground and explode. Yubashi naturally knew that this deficit could no longer be made up. If he could continue to use the money provided by the Lianghuai salt merchants to make up for the annual deficit, he could still get over it. But now, the salt merchants are arrogant and unwilling to pay more, so there is no telling whether the bomb will explode now. If nothing can be done, I have contacted Jiangsu Governor Zhang Bui. Then you will go to Jiangning and Huayan for me to comfort Gao Heng and Yang Shifu and make them feel at ease. Yes. Chapter 4. The whole family is taken away. In late spring in Jiangning, after the heavy rain, students from Chiuwei High School who were preparing to enter Beijing last year gathered on the boat on the banks of the Qinhuai River. Literary character is often talked about in a place like this. Even a scholar who has not won the imperial examination will usually stay in Jiangning for a while. After all, it is not easy to come to Jiangning, so the opportunity cannot be wasted. Whether you win or not, for ordinary scholars who participate in the provincial examination, it actually doesn't matter. If you win, of course everyone will celebrate and be happy. If you don't win, you should be mentally prepared in advance and not be too sad. After all, apart from prodigies, the youngest scholars who can come to Jiangning to take part in the provincial examination are around 20, like Zhu Chaoe. As for the upper limit, then there is no limit. The waiter who often sells books outside the Jiangning examination room once saw an old man in his 60s tremblingly giving a student salute to the examiner, who was at least